It was easy to lose yourself in a place like this. He didn't even mind the smell of it. Smoke and rope and tar, foreign spices mixed with the dirty river water smell of the Thames. Looking up and down the empty street, he scrubbed the sleeve of his coat across his face, trying to rub away the ichor that stung and burned his skin. The cloth came away stained green and black. There was a cut on the back of his hand, too, a nasty one. He could use a healing rune, one of Charlotte's preferably. She was particularly good at drawing Iratzes. A shape detached itself from the shadows and moved toward Will. He started forward, then paused. It wasn't Jem, but rather a mundane policeman wearing a bell-shaped helmet, a heavy overcoat, and a puzzled expression. He stared at Will, or rather through Will. However accustomed Will had become to glamour, it was always strange to be looked through as if he weren't there. Will was seized with the sudden urge to grab the policeman's truncheon and watch while the man flapped around trying to figure out where it had gone. But Jem had scolded him the few times he'd done that before, and while Will never really could understand Jem's objections to the whole enterprise, it wasn't worth making him upset. With a shrug and a blink, the policeman moved past Will, shaking his head and muttering something under his breath about swearing off the djinn before he truly started seeing things. Will stepped aside to let the man pass, then raised his voice to a shout. "James Carstairs! Jem! Where are you, you disloyal bastard?" This time a faint reply answered him. "Over here. Follow the witchlight." Will moved toward the sound of Jem's voice. It seemed to be coming from a dark opening between two warehouses. A faint gleam was visible within the shadows, like the darting light of a will-o'-the-wisp. "Did you hear me before? That Shaxx demon thought it could get me with its bloody great pincers, but I cornered it in an alley." "Yes, I heard you." The young man who appeared at the mouth of the alley was pale in the lamplight, paler even than he usually was, which was quite pale indeed. He was bareheaded, which drew the eye immediately to his hair. It was an odd, bright silver color, like an untarnished shilling. His eyes were the same silver, and his fine-boned face was angular, the slight curve of his eyes the only clue to his heritage. There were dark stains across his white shirt front, and his hands were thickly smeared with red. Will tensed. "You're bleeding. What happened?" Jem waved away Will's concern. "It's not my blood." He turned his head back toward the alley behind him. "It's hers." Will glanced past his friend into the thicker shadows of the alley. In the far corner of it was a crumpled shape, only a shadow in the darkness, but when Will looked closely he could make out the shape of a pale hand and a wisp of fair hair. "A dead woman?" Will asked. "A mundane?" "A girl, really. Not more than 14. At that, Will cursed with great volume and expression. Jem waited patiently for him to be done. "If we'd only happened along a little earlier," Will said finally. "That bloody demon." "That's the peculiar thing. I don't think this is the demon's work." Jem frowned. "Shaxx demons are parasites, brood parasites. It would have wanted to drag its victim back to its lair to lay eggs in her skin while she was still alive. But this girl, she was stabbed repeatedly. And I don't think it was here either. There simply isn't enough blood in the alley. I think she was attacked elsewhere, and she dragged herself here to die of her injuries." "But the Shaxx demon?" "I'm telling you, I don't think it was the Shaxx. I think the Shaxx was pursuing her, hunting her down for something or someone else." "Shaxxes have a keen sense of scent," Will allowed. "I've heard of warlocks using them to follow the tracks of the missing, and it did seem to be moving with an odd sort of purpose." He looked past Jem at the pitiful smallness of the crumpled shape in the alley. "You didn't find the weapon, did you?" "Here." Jem drew something from inside his jacket, a knife wrapped in white cloth.